Hawa. Human Rights Library, University of Minnesota. Hawa, we exist. Inside a framework, outside a framework, we exist. So we search and we seek out our existence. The connectivity between us and us. And we learn that since we were invaded on our land, and since we are the copper color races found here according to the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary, that we are the tribes that are now prisoners of war, according to the Papal Bull 1452, Diversas. So we touched on this before, man. Love to let us find the truth. Who dropped a magnificent drop, man. I mean, to this day, I say, man, that's the greatest drop of all time. And I'm actually going to link the video that I did featuring it. And dig on it. You know, click on it below. It's worth it if you haven't seen it. Want to go back through it. I don't believe the original video that Truth dropped, man, is still up. He might have taken it down, man. So this might be the, you know, unless he puts it back up, man, you know, somewhere, man, you find it, let me know. Let's get it, man. Geneva Convention relative to the treatment of prisoners of war. Get it in the library. Dig on it. I was just surfing the wave, man. Hope everyone enjoyed that Ame'rican, man. Love to Isaac Ford, man. Connecting us all the way real above the berry. Above the firmament, the berry. Yeah, we in that Geneva Convention, man. Oh yeah, we gotta get back in that Papal Vu. Yeah. Geneva Convention relative to treatment of POWs. So it's right by the Jesuit and Fort Val's joint. Man, love to Uno, man. Drop some great drop in here, man. So pull up that Geneva Convention. That's where we're at. It's all here for you. Over 100 PDFs. And we're building many more, man, on our new framework, man. So this was just the beginning. And, you know, we're going to keep on letting the water move and being moving water. So know that you're the copper color race found here. You put your bow and arrow down. So, you know, there were certain, certain treatments, certain, you know what I'm saying, constituents, certain things that were written inside of their law. Based on the fact that you put your arrows down. Love to AD for this, man. Myths of the Cherokee. We're going to be digging on some of this, man. You know, sometime in the near. But, you know, we got to paint a picture. Because we're about to get it, man. We're about to just read this thing. We know we're just talking about Americans, so when they say prisoners of war, they're referring to the American, the Aboriginal, original, the copper color race found here by the European. But now they take the title, right? Because in the Diversas, they can take the titles applied to the descendants of the Europeans. In the Diversas, they can just take the titles. That's part of this document. Having secured and said the said faculty, the said King Alfonso, or by his authority, the aforesaid Infante justly and lawfully has acquired and possessed and doth possesses these islands. This made you prisoners of war, people, lands, harbors, and seas. and they do of right belong and pertain to the said King Alfonso and his successors. Where does this play? This is 1452. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. The Byzantine was taken out a year later, 1453, right after this. They go to war against all of Israel. Successors. So this said our King Alfonso, or all of their, folks acting as, these titles, can take your land, right? Your land. What else? Their kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and reduce their people to forever slavery, perpetual, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors. Where does this place successors? Copper color races found here, but now applied to the descendants, successors of the Europeans born here are now the successors. They're now the successors that are inheriting the kingdoms, the dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, goods, and to convert them, these copper color races found here, the copper color races, the Negro, the copper color race, to convert the copper color race to his and their use and profit. So convert them to his and their use and profit. It don't even say convert them to Christianity, although they're rolling up on the enemies of Christ. But it says, man, whatever you do, just convert them to your own use and profit. This is your forever slavery done to the copper color race, according to their dictionary in 1828. Click on the link below. Read it for yourselves. Share it. This is their definition of Ame'rican, people. Now you say American, you're like, oh, that's not me. I'm African American. No, you're American. Indigenous, original, copper color. And what happened? They got rolled up on. 1452 was the document that put you into forever slavery. Perpetual forever slavery. This document brought you into the status of being a prisoner of war. White, black, Filipino, Asian. No, you're a prisoner of war. Now, who can free you? This is Pope Nicholas V issuing the Papal Bull Diversas, June 18, 1452. Authorizing them to reduce any Saracen or Muslim or Moor or people of the promise. Like let us find the truth. A man true broke down a long time ago. So Muslims in etymology just means promise or people of a promise. So these Saracens or these dark people of promise, of a promise in a promised land, they calling them unbelievers because they're not believing. And they call them enemies of Christ because there is no Christus or no Jesus or no Zeus that's being recognized here. So they're enemies of this jargon that's coming with the new test and a new covenant and saying your law is done away. And you need to come through me to get to, my pops. Come through JC. Come through this Christus. Me, I'm the son. I'm the son. And if you're an enemy of that, then they had full permission to take your principalities, your kingdom. What kingdom? The same kingdom Columbus brought a Hebrew interpreter to talk to the Israelite king, the Grand Khan. A king that spoke Hebrew? Dukedoms, principalities, dominions. What dominions? Prester John, king of the three Indias, emperor of the three Indias, dark-skinned regions of vast territories. Possessions, what possessions? Cities of gold, and movable and immovable goods, whatsoever held and possessed by them, and reduced their persons to perpetual slavery. Now you read that you're a slave because you were given permission to become a forever slave. Who? Look, we're just talking about acquire and possess and doth possess these islands, lands, harbors, and seas. So who are these people found in these islands, lands, harbors, and seas? According to their definition, the Ame'ricans, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored race. The so-called Negro was wrote upon, declared war against, documented by a papal bull, possessing these islands, calling us enemies of their Christ. Now they must convert us to take us and disconnect us from the energy above the barrier, from the great, great energy, the great spirit, the Hawa, the existence. They broke down the partition and found you here and called it a new world full of copper-colored races or Americans. And from that point on, you've been prisoners of war. I mean, which war? Which war, man? I mean, in order to say, I know we just proven that, these copper-colored races were found here. We just proved the actual substantiating document, a papal bull declaring war, calling you Saracens and Muslims, Moors. Now we have to say, okay, well, what's the evidence that war took place? Well, America has been at war 93% of the time. Oh, you think it's just Afghanistan and Iraq? Syria? Nah, man, that's that new. You on that young thug. You on that young thug, man. We banging knives, man. We banging knives over here. You on that new. See, Nas is telling you some drop. And what we're telling you is that 93% of the time has everything to do with the copper-colored race they found here. Has everything to do with this declaration of war. They were already at war with this document, and they called it manifest destiny. It was their destiny to find these Hebrews. Columbus brought a Hebrew interpreter with him in 1492, 40 years after this document of war. But America's been at war 93% of the time, 239 years since 1776. So after this colony took over, they did what? Declared war against the copper-colored race they found here in America, the Ame'rican. Now you see a year-by-year timeline of America's major wars since 1776 to 2011. Cherokee, Chickamauga War. All these are the indigenous Negro, so-called copper-colored race. Indian. 1800s. Barbary. We're still talking you. Taku Mansai War. Man, we just talking the copper-colored race found here by the European. The ones they found here, people. Are you getting it? Since then, you've been prisoners of war. The copper color race. You want to see a penny? An 1800s penny? I mean, do we have to? We're just talking war against that which is more or great. We knew there was civil war, more already popping. That's just, getting to the tail end of the 1776. Now suddenly there's treaties. We're just talking wars and creeks. We're talking Seminoles. Sac and Fox Indian Wars, Cherokee Indian Wars. Cherokee Indian. What war did America wage when they got here? They waged war against the more copper-colored races. And they said, we got a document that says it's all good. Because we weighing all in singular the premises and due meditation, and noting that since we had formerly by other letters of ours granted among other things free and ample faculty to the aforesaid King Alfonso to do what against the copper color race found here? What are you allowed to do against the copper color race found here, the American? To invade. So they are invaders. They are invaders, leaving everything to their successors or to the descendants of the Europeans born in America, so-called European. To invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all what they're calling Saracens are just dark people and pagans because they don't know anything about this Christus whatsoever, and all other enemies of Christ wheresoever placed. And this is the war that was declared, man. Look at the war. So we are showing the copper color race who they found here, indisputable in their 1828 Webster Dictionary. Look at all the evidence of the war that took place subsequently. Look at all the war that took place subsequently, following this declaration of war. And I tell you, look in the mirror. You are a prisoner of war. All this is war against you. I haven't got to one that is outside. Now I get into Mexico, and that's still about you. The Philippines banana wars are still about you. Banana wars are all still about you. Now we get into World War II. Where's World War I? I know there was a Utah war there too. Everything else is American Civil War, Texas Indian Wars, Seminole Wars. These are all ones, man, that we gotta like individually break down, man, and kind of start, tracking some of these tribes, man. Tracking some of these specific migration patterns, man. I mean, it's amazing. So many bells go off when you scroll through this, man. And they got the Korean War. Now you start hearing about wars, you know what I'm saying? Cold War and Iraq and all this kind of stuff. But all this stuff before this, man, I wish I could find that Utah joint. Popped up one time on me. Seen it has something to do with the whole Mormon thing, man. We got to get into, you know what I'm saying, the Mormon Ute situation, what really went down with these Udahs and Mormons, man, in Utah. Alright, man. So, again, I'll leave this link. You can scroll through it, and this is your evidence of war. So when you become a prisoner of war, these wars have everything to do with you. Everything to do with you. So scroll through and see if you can find a Utah one for me, man. Let me know where it's at, man. Give me some drop, give me some drop. We're just talking about the war, the declaration of war to subdue all these copper color races and roll up on their principalities and dominions and take their possessions and leave them to their successors or descendants, and take the title of the copper colored race and now call them African American, as if only one region contains dark skinned people on the whole melanated true earth plane. On the whole earth plane, it must be Africa. The Aboriginals or original people of Australia do not say they come from Africa. They come from right there. Those people of those islands come from right there. Solomon Islands, asking where they come from. So you think the indigenous or so-called Aboriginal people of the Americas look different than the indigenous people of Solomon Islands or Australia? We are everywhere. So it's a mind game to make you feel like you come from one place while they take the rest of the board. And what are they finding here? The terrestrial paradise. It's all about the land, people. Oh yeah, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. So, prisoners of war. Get it? Part 1. Let's go. Article 1, the high contracting parties. The high contracting parties, you are one of the high contracting parties, believe it or not. Now, you don't have to know you're one of the high contracting parties, but this is a contract that has everything to do with you, although you're not signing it. The high contract parties undertake to respect and to ensure respect for the present convention in all circumstances. Article 2. In addition to the provisions which shall be implemented in peacetime. In peacetime. Are you in peacetime now? Nope. There's war going all around you, right? You're in wartime. So in addition to the provisions which shall be implemented in peacetime, the present convention shall apply to all cases of declared war or of any other armed conflict which may arise between two or more high contracting parties. Listen up. I just told you, you are one of these high contracting parties and you don't even know it. You have contracts and don't even know it. When you get rolled up on as the copper color race found here, you're a descendant of this massacre that happened, that they found here, because of this document that allowed them to invade and say, I'll take and acquire all these islands and lands and harbors and seas. I'll take all of the goods, movable and immovable. I'll take all their things, and then I'll later say that they're lazy welfare, ghetto thugs. After we done taken, we done taken all their principalities. We done taken their kingdom, dukedoms, principalities. We've taken all of their dominions. We've taken all of their possessions. We've taken all of their goods, movable and immovable, whatsoever held and possessed by them. And we have reduced these copper-colored so-called Negroes to perpetual forever servitude, slavery. And we've applied to ourselves and appropriated to ourselves and to our descendants their kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities. We've acquired and appropriated to ourselves and to our successors or descendants their possessions and goods. And we converted them to our own use and profit. This is their declaration when they took down the copper color race they found here. And since that time, man, you've been a prisoner of war. And you are a high contracting party in this war, even if you don't remember, because you've been wiped out and mutilated. And there's breadcrumbs. There's breadcrumbs left behind for you to at least know who you are and what's happening. Conflict which may arise between two or more of the high contracting parties, even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them. So you don't have to recognize it, Negro. You can be asleep like you are, Negro, and you're still a high contracting party, Negro. And you're still calling yourself African American, but you have a high contracting situation in these Americas, because the Ame'rican is the Negro, the color of this dark copper that thinks he's from somewhere else but has land right here and is a high contracting party, even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them. Which one is recognizing that they're at war and which one has forgotten? Which one recognizes that all these wars have taken place and knows which? These people know that they're the contracting party in these wars. Now, these people that they wiped out or whatever happened don't have to know shit. What does the first Seminole have to know? What does the Seminole have to know about this when they get wiped out? Were they not? Were they or were they not a high contracting party in this war, the Seminole? I think they're a very high contracting party. I think they have all the drop. They have the land. They have the gold. These people are coming with the law of the sea, the Admiralty Sea Law. America and Canada to them is just water. They're putting foreign vessels in dry dock and giving documents, parking their ships, their courts, and their jurisdiction based on the law of the sea. And the law of the land still exists. They just ignore it and say, it's an illusion. It's a myth. Their land, Garden of Eden, that's a myth. Seminole is a high contracting party. Winnebago, Black Hawk, Cherokee is a high contracting party. Man, we're going to dig down. We're going to dig down on these wars, man, because I know a lot is going to start unlocking, especially when we see who's on what side of what and what's really popping and who's making treaties against who. There we go. Utah War. This is 1858. Seminole War. It's right here too. All right, so 1857, Seminole War, Texas Indian War, Southwest Indian War, Navajo War, California Cali Wars, Utah War, and conflict in Nicaragua happened in 1957 and 1958. And continue. So who's invading who? I think that's really clear. I think it's really clear. But now applied to the descendants of Europeans, that means that they are the products of these wars that were waged upon copper-colored people. And it's not okay to, because of public school system, you got to really dig this stuff up and connect all this and, all this. But once you wake up to it, I'm saying, you're walking in tribal land. It was recently tribal. And these are the tribes and descendant of them, but they don't know who they are because they were wiped so clean. These copper-colored races were wiped out mentally, spiritually. Now they've been thrown in these ghettos, which are really reservations, but the real reservations are being given to a proxy, and they're being called Native Americans, but the Native Americans are the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here. So if it was so common to find this dark copper color, just for fun, man. Copper color Race. I'm just going to put in copper color race. Yeah. It's not really hard to connect this stuff. So you know what a penny look like. So this is your image, right? More of a, you know, something else. But it's not that. We know the difference. We know the difference. We know the difference. Right? You know, sometimes you need a visual. What a penny look like and who you are as copper color races. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So you are one of the high contracting parties, even if the state of war is not recognized by you. This still applies. Wake up and recognize that you are a high contracting party. And all you need to know is that what they're given in terms of welfare and all this shit is just peanuts and bullshit. Because they're giving other folks that are proxy in your proxy, they're being recognized as tribes, right? You're not. Because you fought and died as prisoners of war. They brought someone else in, gave them your titles, and now they give them, what, $9,000 a month and put them in free living and reservations and all this type of free hookups and all this stuff. They're getting what was written in for you to receive. Now, when we talk about real freedom, we say, look, man, handouts, put them aside. No one's looking for that. This is not so you can go try to figure out what kind of handout to get and work within the system to get whatever. Your only freedom is with the Creator. But this at least lets you recognize how real it is, and that this stuff is contracted to this day, and that to this day you are a prisoner of war. And technically, if you had to, you can, you know, walk in those shoes. You can walk in those shoes in many different dimensions and directions. So we're just giving you the drop, taking you to the water, and what you do with it, all praise the Creator. Allah. The convention shall also apply to all cases of partial or total occupation. Partial or total occupation of territory of high contracting party. Who's that? Huh. Hold up. Let me go. Maybe I'm tripping. Other enemies of Christ, whatsoever plays. All right. So to invade, search out, capture, vanquish. These people are vanquished today. And you got a nerve to turn your nose up to these people who've been vanquished and captured and searched out and invaded. Like you know what it feels like. This just happened to us. This just happened. Kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions. Dominions, dominions, dominions. Territory, dominion, territory. The convention shall also apply to all cases of partial or total occupation of your dominion, territory of a high contracting party, even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them, because they're sadly asleep and they've been vanquished, invaded, and searched out. So whether they take some of your land or all your land, all the territory of the high contracting party that's asleep, the so-called Negro, the copper color race found here, the Ame'rican, even if the said occupation meets with no armed resistance. Even after you put down your bow and arrow, and it's met with no armed resistance, this applies. So you could be asleep and not resisting with any bow and arrow or arms because you're asleep. You forgot this is your land. You forgot you're the tribes they found here. You forgot you're the copper color race. You forgot they brought a Hebrew interpreter to talk to you. You forgot Hebrew. You forgot. I mean, that's what happened. So now they can roll on your territory. You as the main high contracting party, the same way that this Ute Utah Indian Wars. 1952, Utah Indian Wars. Who's the high contracting party here? Udall. Udall Indian. Udall Aztecan. Udall. In 1850, Udall was getting it cracking with Cali. Who's the high contracting party? The Cali. The Seminole. Who's the high contracting party? In their territory of high contracting parties, even if the said occupant meets with no armed resistance because they're asleep. Although one of the powers in conflict may be a party to the present convention, the powers who are parties thereto shall remain bound by it in their mutual relation. So you're bound to this system as prisoners of war. Although one of the powers in the conflict may be a party to the present convention. So only one of the powers has to be awake because they've already calculated, well, shit, when an invasion happens, their descendants aren't going to know shit. They're not going to be, in any remembrance as to what's going on. So they're still a descendant of the high contracting parties that we invaded and vanquished. And we can't let them have no out because they're asleep. So we have to write in the provisions, actually write this shit out, that even though they're asleep and only one of us, only one of the powers in conflict may be a party to the present convention, the powers who are parties thereto shall remain bound. You're still bound in mutual relation with these people, according to this, Geneva Convention, relative to the treatment of you, so-called Negro, the prisoner of war. And look this stuff up. Because they keep having to come back and meet about this stuff, and they're doing it even to this day. Article 3, in the case of armed conflict, not of an international character, meaning right here on this land, these are all armed conflicts, not of international nature. All these conflicts are of national nature, taking place right here in the Americas, where they found the copper color races. All of them. Got nothing to do with nothing international, except those that are paying for these ships to take us from here. Those that are hijacking us from other lands. That's the international element, not us. The war is not against anyone international. That would be an international foreign occupying entity going to war against another international entity. This international invasion happened on this nation. And the copper-colored races were found here in this nation, found here by the Europeans. Dig on it. In the case of armed conflict not of an international nature occurring in the territory of one of the high contracting parties, I wonder which one. Each party to the conflict shall be bound to apply as a minimum the following provisions. So they too are bound, according to this Geneva Convention, to perform the following provisions. Persons taking no active part in the hostilities, including members of armed forces. Armed forces means a tribe that is armed is a member of armed forces. That doesn't mean Navy or Army. That's just saying your Navy, your Army. You know what I'm saying? Your tribe. So persons taking no active part in the hostilities. And by the way, where's your Army? Where's your Navy? Where's your tribe? Well, look at the NFL. Look at college football. Look at rugby and, basketball and everything else. Our tribe is being paid good money. Our warriors are paid good money to be fully asleep. you know, all the riches and all that is very, very distracting. And they are fully distracted in the Roman Caesar games, the same Caesar games that they did before to distract those people. They're doing the same Colosseum games today. And in those Colosseums, they play on Sundays, or they play, you know, whatever they play in their Colosseums. And they get paid great, and they feel great. You know, they've been doing it all their lives, and that's what it is. And at the end of the day, when they wake up, they say, man, all that money is great, and my family got to eat, and all that stuff happened, but I was once part of something that doesn't require someone else's signature on no check for me to live, man. I was part of a nation. I was ruling a nation. We were gods amongst men. Adam, fire, water, air, and land. Now we get paid to do things. Jumping, tossing. All for the convenience. All for the temporary convenience. But that's where we are. We're the entertainment. We're the salt of the earth. The seasoning of the whole earth. That is our nation. The seasoning of the whole earth. The salt of the earth. Each party to the conflict shall be bound to apply. So persons taking no active part in hostilities, including members of the armed forces, the NFL, who have laid down their arms in those places, or they combat by sickness, wounds, and detention, or other causes, shall in all circumstances be treated humanely. So because you laid down your arms, because the tribes, the copper-colored tribes, laid down their arms, laid down their bow and arrows, laid down their arms, whatever they are bound to treat you humanely. See, look, man. It ain't no hookup. It's to keep you from picking up your bow and arrow again. They have to put certain provisions and say, look. Let's just, as long as we keep you and pacify you, you know, treat you humanely, we can take all your shit. We can take all your shit. Alright? We can take your lands, we can take your possessions, your dominions, your principalities, we can take your movable and immovable goods. Alright? We can convert everything to our use and profit. We can do all this stuff. We can take all your shit. As long as we treat you humanely, we can take everything. Without any adverse distinction founded on race, color, religion, faith, sex, birth, or wealth. So even if you're poor, we have to treat you humanely. So when they give you welfare and stuff like that, they're just following their Geneva Convention. They're not looking out for you as humanitarians. But they're giving the real hookup to the proxy. $9 grand a month plus free living, all that, and it's not welfare. They're getting hooked up. But you were the copper-colored race. You were the ones fighting in these wars. You were the ones fighting in these wars and dying in these wars. You were the ones that didn't make good slaves because you would rather die than be a slave. You would rather die than give up lands or make treaties for your land. You only make treaties on a land that's not yours to get a little cubby hole. Somebody doesn't invade your house and you say, all right, I'll make a treaty for my house. Just give me the office. You could take the rest of the house. Nah, man, you like the fuck out of my house, so that's just what it's gonna be. This is what it's gonna be, right? Or do you make a treaty for your house with an invader, and then you live in that same house with the invader? Or do the people that make treaties are the ones that want to get in that house so bad that they would sign a deal to help someone invade that house and say, nice house. Cool, just give me the office. I know it's not my house. I'll take the office. That's cool. You can have all that. You can have all the rest. I'll just take this latitude and longitude. We're just talking copper-colored races. We're just talking treaties. We're just talking the Geneva Convention. Let's get some more. So they're supposed to treat you humanely. All right. To this end, the following acts are and shall remain prohibited at any time and in any place whatsoever with respect to the above mentioned persons. A, So this is all prohibited because you put down your arms. You lay down your arms. You are not walking around with your bow and arrows or any type of, device. They got gun clubs, but you're not doing that. Because, yes, you have the right to bear arms on your land. Not according to their sea law, but you have the right to defend your land, man. Of course you do. Of course you do. You have to be idiotic to think you don't have a right to defend your land. But when someone is ruling you with the gun, and they're pointing it at you and they're saying, I'm taking your right to defend your land with the gun. Now you can, get back into this mode. All these wars popping off with the indigenous copper color race. Copper color race found here, the Native of America, the original copper color race. You can get back in this mode, or you can lay down your arms. As a prisoner of war, you didn't make a good slave, but you were prisoners of war, and they say, all right, well, in order to keep you as a prisoner of war, lay down your arms. And because you do that, I have to treat you humanely. Because you gave up. You surrendered, I guess. Even though, did we ever really surrender? Or did the wars continue? Even when they get into their foreign conflicts, what they're not putting when they say no major war, they're talking Kosovo and Iraq, they're still attacking the indigenous copper color race found here in America. It's still war against the copper color race. It's still cowboy and Indians. They're just not documenting it. War on drugs and whatever else they're trying to orchestrate. It's still war against the copper color race. The tribes. Dig on it. So because they lay down their arms, we're going to treat them humanely. Until this end, the following acts are and shall remain prohibited at any time. Because they laid down their arms, the copper color race, we can't do this to them. It's prohibited to do this to them. And this is in their own Geneva Code. Geneva Convention. It's prohibited because you laid down your arms. Once you exist and say, yeah, I am this. I am this copper color race you found here. I know why you brought a Hebrew interpreter to speak to me, to speak to us. Columbo, Christy Ball, Christ Bearer, Hijack, 101. So we're prohibited to do this to these people because they laid down their arms. A, violence to life and person. Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, come on, Akai Gurley. I try to tell y'all, man. Sandra Bland, I try to tell y'all, it's prohibited to roll up on these indigenous people, this high contracting party who's laid down their arms. Because when they say you have no rights, what are you going to do? Pick back up your arms. You're not going to lay down your arms. You're going to say, I have no rights. I got no other option. So they don't want you yet. They're trying to force us into this now. But for the time being, while they were controlling our minds, no, they're supposed to be protected. No violence to life and person, in particular murder. Did they keep that? Or are they in violation of the Geneva Convention, prisoners of war? And what do you do when your international, if you want to talk, law, this is not American law, but the international law. This is human rights, man. This is relative to the treatments of prisoners of war. We're talking international law. We're not talking American law. We're talking international law. If we're playing that game. How do the international courts feel about the treatment of these prisoners of war when they lay down their arms? And yet, violence to life and persons, in particular murder, is still existing. Mutilation, cruel treatment, and torture. taking of hostages, kidnapping, DC, outrages upon personal dignity, all that civil rights, all that happening today, in particular, humiliating and degrading treatment, just go on YouTube, go on World Star. The passing of sentences, we're talking their criminal admiralty law system, the passing of sentences and the carrying out of executions without previous judgment pronounced by a regularly constituted court, affording all judicial, pay attention, they are supposed to, in the courts, give you all judicial guarantees which are recognized as indispensable by civilized people. So you over here getting some crap lawyer, you know what I'm saying? You're stuck with some court-appointed situation. Meanwhile, a civilized person or now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Now this is considered a civilized person, like the civilized tribes and the civilization of the Cristobal that they're bringing to you. They're civilizing these savages, but they're finding all this technology that they can't replicate. And to this day, all they're doing is what? Reverse engineering. And these Europeans born in America, or the successors of the invader, that's taking these islands, lands, harbors, and seas. The successor that's benefiting from all this war, all this blood, just so they can walk around in Beverly Hills and Hollywood Boulevard and feel comfortable visiting here, this tribal land, because now the definition of America sure don't look like this anymore. It don't even look like this anymore. You know what it looked like now. I tell you, man, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Copper color race found here. Oh, man. I tell you, man, the copper color race, and then they make fun of you, right? You're not supposed to be humiliating, but they make mascots out of you and say you're redskins. Red, ruddy, Adam. Copper color is red, ruddy, Adam. Rubbish. Alright. Civilized people. So in court, you're supposed to get all judicial guarantees which are recognized by these descendants of these, or these successors of these invaders, or so-called Europeans, or whatever you want to, whatever title hijack 101 is going on here. Because we know our title's being taken. I know they're not calling me an American. Unless I'm out the country, they may say, oh, you have an American accent. And I'm like, huh? But they know when they say American, they are referring to the copper color race. And they know that I'm a copper color race found here over there. I mean, you know, they don't play dumb. We play dumb. Our school system makes us this way. We don't ask questions. Let's get a little bit more. So they're supposed to give you all. So, you know, you're supposed to get a good lawyer. You need a new lawyer. You're supposed to get a new lawyer. They say, nope, we're not going to give you another free lawyer. We're going to deny you a right to get a lawyer. All those things, man, you know, people going down because they don't have the money to pay for an expert to do this, do that, or properly defend themselves that a civilized person would have. They're supposed to, without judgment pronounced by a regularly constituted court, affording all judicial guarantees, man, everything, which are recognized as indispensable by the so-called European. The wounded and sick shall be collected and cared for. So you're supposed to get free health care because you laid down your arms. And they don't want you to pick your arms back up. So they have provisions for you that if you are sick, an impartial humanitarian body such as the International Committee of the Red Cross may offer its services to the parties to the conflict. The parties to the conflict shall further endeavor to bring it to force by means of special agreements. All are part of other provisions of the present convention. The application of preceding provisions shall not affect the legal status of the parties to the conflict. You're supposed to be careful. Oh, we're just hooking these people up with this healthcare program, man. You as an indigenous person can walk into any hospital as an indigenous person and receive care. Article 4, prisoners of war in the sense of the present convention are persons belonging to one of the following categories who have fallen into the power of the enemy. So they're going to tell us what a prisoner of war is. Let's see, so-called Negro. Does this apply to you or anyone you know? Members of the armed forces of a party or the warriors of a tribe to the conflict, as well as members of militias or tribes or volunteer corps forming part of such armed forces or tribes, are prisoners of war. So who do you think are the prisoners of war? What happened to the descendants of all these people who were waged war against? All these people who this papal bull in 1452 saying weighing all singular the premises with due meditation. So we're going to meditate on this takedown of these copper-colored people. To invade, search out, conquest, capture, vanquish these copper-colored races. Who do you think? Who do you think are the fallen? Who fell into the power of the enemy? Alright, so members of their tribes, their warriors, they keep calling the armed forces of a party to the conflict, as well as members of the militia or volunteer groups forming part of such armed forces. Alright, so these are the warriors, the tribes, members of other militias and members of other volunteer corps, including those of organized resistance movements. Organized resistance. What are you resisting? Huh? Oh, it sounds like a horrible thing. Organized resistance. Organized resistance. What are you possibly resisting? So if you're here minding your own business, let's reverse the curse. Crossover. Iverson. To invade, search out, capture, vex. So if you're here, and these people over here doing their own thing in their own courts, and they write a little document out and say, hey man, I give you permission to roll up on these guys, man. Take everything, leave it for your successors, put them in perpetual slavery. And you're over here minding your own business, and they want to possess these islands, lands, harbors, and seas, and you're over here minding your own business in these islands, lands, harbors, and seas. And they come over to invade, search out, and capture you, and vanquish you, and subdue you. And you say, so you're sitting here as a copper-colored race. You're sitting here as a copper-colored race. As a copper-colored race. Copper-colored race. And these people invade you, capture and subdue you, and you say, well, I'm not cool with being invaded and searched out and captured and vanquished. I'm not cool with you taking my kingdoms and dukedoms and principalities and dominions and possessions and all movable and immovable good. I'm not cool with you putting me into forever perpetual slavery. So I think I'm going to resist that as a copper color race, not the hijack, but the copper color race, Native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or originals. Copper colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the Europeans born in America. So these are the people found here. These are the people fighting all these wars. These are the Mexicans. These are the Seminoles. They're not cool with getting put in perpetual slavery or invaded. And they say, you know, maybe I'll resist that in an organized way. So in their hijack mentality, or in the mind of a hijack, they call you a militia or a organized resistance movement. Dun dun dun. Because you say, invade, search, and capture me. You say slavery perpetually, forever. I'm going to resist that. And maybe we'll be stronger if we're organized. And maybe there should be some movement to it. No, you're a militia. Now check it. Including those organized resistance movements, alright, or people who's like, fuck this shit, belonging to a party to the conflict and operating in or outside their own territory, dominion, even if this territory is occupied or invaded. Invaded or searched out or captured, even if this territory is occupied, provided that such militias or volunteer corps, including such organized resistance movements, fulfill the following conditions. So here's the conditions put on these people who are like, fuck this shit. I'm resisting invasion. I'm a copper color race found here. I'm a copper color race found here, and fuck this shit. Because you're killing and mutilating and raping and pillaging and taking all movable and immovable goods and putting me into slavery. But here's the conditions. A, that of being commanded by a person responsible for his subordinates. That of having a fixed distinction sign recognizable at a distance. So these are the conditions for the copper color race. Even if this territory is occupied, provided that such militias or volunteer corps, including such organized resistance movements, fulfill the following conditions. So they want you to be commanded by a person responsible for his subordinates, so you're under their command. That of having fixed distinction, sign recognizable at a distance. Very interesting, right? That of carrying arms openly. That of conducting their operations in accordance with the laws and customs of war. So you can't, you can't hide your arms. You gotta, carry everything open if you're gonna do it. Open carry. You can't conceal. You gotta show who you are from a distance. So, whoa, have things changed? Now you can't carry nothing open, right? Put down your arms means put down your arms way down. Put your arms way down. But even if they're up, they still might shoot you. Even if your hands are up. Michael Brown. That of conducting their operations in accordance with the laws and customs of war. Customs of war. Members of regular armed forces who profess allegiance to a government or an authority not recognized by the detaining power. Persons who accompany the armed forces without actually being members thereof, such as a civilian of military aircraft crews, war correspondents, supply contractors, members of labor units, or of service responsible for the welfare of the armed forces, provided that they have received authorization from the armed forces which they accompany, which shall provide them for that purpose with an identity card similar to the annex model. Man, in the mind of a hijack. Members of crews, so these are all still talking about what qualifies as prisoners of war. Right? These are all the categories. members of crews including masters, pilots, and apprentices of the merchant marine, and the crews of civil aircraft of the parties to the conflict. So they're just including every part of their army, every part of their, culture, so to speak, to defend themselves, who do not benefit by more favorable treatment under any provisions or international law. 6, inhabitants of a non-occupied territory. So you could be in a territory that's non-occupied by them, who on approach of the enemy spontaneously take up arms to resist invading forces. That qualifies as a prisoner of war, people. Because what happens next? These people get slaughtered, or, the war ensues. That's describing these situations here. Cherokee Indian War. All these situations here that they're getting rolled upon. California just got invaded in the 1700s. A lot of the, Southwest. So we're talking, man. Look, man. So you don't think you're a prisoner of war? What would you do if you're the inhabitant of a territory, a dominion, and you're rocking? No one is invading you. It's non-occupied. No one is invading you. It's non-occupied. Who on the approach of the enemy, so on the approach of the invader, the European that found you, the copper-colored races, but now apply to the descendants of Europeans born in America, taking your titles. So while they're coming to take your title, spontaneously you take up arms to resist. What are you resisting? The invading forces. What invading forces? The same invading forces that says to invade, search out, capture, and vanquish, and subdue all niggas in 1452. And in 1492, Colombo sails the ocean blue and says, I have permission to invade you and search out, capture you, and reduce you to perpetual slavery and put you in slavery on your own land. And Dr. King told you that. Frederick Douglass said the native land of the Negro is America, and that they've been put in perpetual forever slavery. And here's a document overseas with their sea law that did it to you. The invading forces, without having time to form themselves into regular armed units. So they spontaneously took up arms to resist the invader. They didn't even have time to form themselves into regular armed units, providing they carry arms openly and respect the laws and customs of war. So they say, all right, we'll give you a pass. You'll still be our prisoners, but just respect the laws and customs. No problem. Carry them openly. Don't conceal anything. The following shall likewise be treated as prisoner of war under the present convention. Persons belonging or having belonged to the armed forces of the occupied country, if the occupying power considers it necessary by reason of such allegiance to intern them, even though it has originally liberated them, while hostilities were going on outside the territory it occupies, in particular where such persons have made an unsuccessful attempt to rejoin the armed forces to which they belong, and which are engaged in combat, or which they fail to comply with a summons made to them with the view to internment. Look, man, does this seem like these people had due meditation? We weighing all in singular the premises with due meditation. Don't it seem like they really meditated on your takedown, on your slavery, on invading you and searching you out and capturing you and vanquishing you? I'm talking about all the islands and lands, and all the war. The copper color race found here. Let's get a little bit more. Originally liberated. All right. 2, the persons belonging to one of the categories enumerated in the present article who have been received by neutral or non-belligerent powers on their territory, and whom these powers are required to intern under international law, without prejudice to any more favorable treatment which these powers may choose to give, and with the exception of Articles 8, 10, 15, 30, 5th paragraph 56 through 67, 92, 126, and where diplomatic relations exist between the parties to the conflict and the neutral or non-belligerent power concerned, those articles concerning the protecting power, where such diplomatic relations exist, the parties to a conflict on which these persons depend shall be allowed to perform towards them the functions of a protecting power as provided in the present convention, without prejudice to the function which these parties normally exercise in conformity with diplomatic and consular usage and treaties. And I'm telling you, you're in the mind of a hijack. C. The article shall in no way affect the status of medical personnel and chaplains as provided for in Article 33 of the present convention, man. And then, you know, keep digging on it, man. Article 5, 6, it goes all the way down. 12, 13, 14. You know, we're going to get back to it because I actually want to cover all these, man. How many articles? 33? Come on, man. Come on, man. Y'all know what that 33 is, man. So I know this ain't play. Man, so like I said, y'all dig on that. Y'all dig on that, man. I'm loving that, man. I'm loving y'all, man. I'm loving life. I'm loving Hawaii. Loving existing with the tribe. I want to get the rest of this, man. Love again to Rasheen the Dream, man. Rah the Gray. We're going to try to get as much as we can for the dismount, a conscious revolution, off the grid. All right, just, you know, put on your rain boots, man, and get that drop. Love to y'all, man. Stay up. Vibrate up.
Do they fall under Admiralty jurisdiction?
See law.
It is a well-disguised fact that nearly everything we believe to be our country, our courts, our police departments, and even the documents that represent us as individuals are in fact corporations in the business for profit. Should you choose to remain a part of any of these corporations, it's important to understand that not only are you under their jurisdiction, but you do gain the benefits that they offer. The benefits in the agreement of becoming a citizen of any country is their protection. To be a citizen of any nation means that you have your citizenship. This ship is a vessel that contains your consent to be protected and governed by that nation.
Wow. So when you're getting your citizenship, you're getting this vessel, you're getting this status, you're signing up. Remember, man, when they put you under your original status, whatever it says, you were under duress. You were under duress. Your mother was under duress. You have conditions of duress when that status was placed on you. When you go back, man, without duress, you voluntarily are saying I'm this title or that title. You're not under duress anymore. And you're claiming titles that you don't own, that are corporations. And you're signing into a system, into slavery. Believe it.
It was November of '07 when I actually got pulled over by city police. You know, they had 2 or 3 police cars there. But what essentially happened is he came up to the window and said, you know, asked me for my driver's license, insurance, and registration. And I actually told him, well, I don't have a driver's license. And he goes, yeah, that's why I stopped you. I'm not a corporation. And I do know that I'm not here to submit to other people's authority. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was actually testifying to him. I didn't need to tell him that I didn't have any of those documents. At that point, he then asked me, well, what's your name? Well, I told him, well, my friends call me Rob. I don't let a name define me, or I don't let a career define me. I'm not a name or a label. Again, I was testifying. I didn't have to disclose to him my identity, but it was enough information for him to make the link between that name and the name that he has jurisdiction over, which is the artificial person that was on the driver's license that was expired. And that was grounds enough for him to proceed with filing charges of driving without a driver's license. And he essentially gave me to the count of 3 to accept these, or he would continue filing more charges and tow the vehicle. And I finally accepted under, I was extremely stressed out at that point because I didn't want to lose my property and that kind of stuff. So I accepted them and decided to deal with it through letters. Like if I was a judge, for example, and you walked in and claimed that you're sovereign, one of the things I'm going to look at is, okay, does this guy behave like a sovereign? Did he, provide me with pre-notice and, try to resolve the issue before it even came to court? And was he honorable in his communications and his interactions with people? So at that point, I started a letter campaign, writing letters to him to ask him, for proof of claim of a whole bunch of things that he was claiming over me. And he essentially ignored all of those. So I showed up in court for the plea. Okay, now I know what the plea is all about, right? So I didn't go in there with all my books. I essentially went in there to essentially say, you know what? There is no harm done here. There's no cause for this court to be hearing. The judge wouldn't hear any of that. He kept asking me for the person, Robert Ernest Page. And I kept saying, well, I'm here on this behalf. Because I'm not that person. I'm man. But he finally said to me, okay, you know what? I'm entering in a plea. Well, first off, that was probably a no-no on his part.
And he told me to plead guilty. But he said that from the facts of the case, it didn't look like I had a chance.
Then he told me, make sure that person is in court. I was still nervous. I was still shaken and that kind of stuff. But I left court excited because I successfully got the judge to recognize me for who I am, not as that artificial person. But I still have court to deal with. So when I got there, the Crown called me up, so I went up there. This is before the judge was there. And he asked me for my name. I didn't give him a name. I told him I'm a third-party intervener under injury because the artificial person's being called to court, not me. But I'm the one that was injured. I was stopped, which is an injury, detained for an hour and a half, and had to go through a whole bunch of letters and that kind of stuff. So he pointed to the ticket and goes, well, is that you? And I told him, that is not me. And I think he's getting frustrated. He said, go sit down. So I went and sat down. All I know is that when they resumed court, they heard the rest of the cases, and then they called Robert Ernest Page up, and I stood up, and she turned to me and said, case dismissed on a lack of evidence.
Whoa.
I move for an immediate dismissal. There's no sound basis for this case. There's not the slightest evidence.
Whoa.
That was tremendous feather in my cap because I was able to successfully stand as a man in front of them without them intimidating me and let them know that I know how this game works now.
Never a few men try to take over the rights of honest citizens. They always fail. They sure do.
The created cannot be greater than the creator. Whether you believe in God or Allah or Mother Earth or whatever, that's your creator. I believe in God. God's my creator. And even right in the Bible, Genesis 1:27 says God created man in his own image. Well, since man was created in the image of the divine king, delegated sovereignty or kingship was bestowed on him. Okay? So I believe that the creator created each and every one of us as kings and queens. Okay? That means there's absolutely nobody between me and my creator. Okay? If I have somebody in between, then I have more than one master.
Whoa, he's hijack free. Hijack free. Nothing in between him and his creator. Now, we know what a dime look like. We know what the copper color ruddy look like. We know what sovereignty looks like. We know what sovereignty look like. Wow.
Masters could be the pursuit of money. Money would be one master that I used to bow to. I would do anything for money. Other people, I used to submit myself to other people's authority without even question. Whether that be, a teacher or politician or police or whatever. Does that mean I don't respect them? No. I honor them for who they are and what they're doing and the path and the journey that they're on. But does that mean I have to bow to them as a master? No. Anything one fears could be construed as a master.
But that also means that our creations are our servants. Okay? We created government. We created the corporations. We created all the bylaws and legislation. Okay? They're there to serve us.
We're not completely out of it yet. We still have dependencies on, our internet connections and our phone bills because we still want to communicate with people. But for the most part, I've been able to unwind myself from the vast majority of all of those requirements that most people have. Years ago, I was very materialistic. I was, working hard for, big houses, big cars, lots of money, that kind of stuff. And then when I recovered from my depression, I realized that life is all about my relationships. Relationships with individuals like yourself, my friends and family, but also with relationships with my food or my environment. Sometimes I still struggle with that. This is a journey. It's not something that's, open a door, walk through, you're changed, man. And, this is something I'll probably have to struggle with the rest of my life. Every once in a while I stumble, but I see it for what it is and forgive myself and just move on. And that whole entire process was a lot of hard work. Like, it was extremely painful, took a lot of energy, but I'm at a point right now where if I had to do it again, I would, because I learned so much about myself. And it positioned me very well to actually get together again with my wife. We were separated for 3 years. We reconciled the marriage, and we've been going strong now for almost 10 years. I believe the solution's available for anybody, whether you live in a democratic society or under a dictatorship or whatever. I believe the solution's simple, and I believe the solution is within ourselves.
There are billions of people wandering this globe with perspective, scope, belief, dogma, morals, fears, desires, and hidden agendas. It's difficult to comprehend exactly what drives each of them. When looking at the surface of this unique condition the planet is in, due to only one species, it may seem as if we aren't truly interested in freedom anymore. Maybe we're not truly working towards growth, prosperity, and peace. Again, it's difficult to pinpoint why we are a species of perpetual war and perpetual deceit, matched by perpetual heroism and perpetual compassion. There is no one answer to explain it all.
In perpetual servitude, perpetual slavery, what is freedom?
And yet, even if there were, it wouldn't be the intellectual answer that we desperately want it to be. The most we can do as individuals is to begin acting like individuals instead of acting like machines on autopilot from some primal program set in motion millions of years ago. What would this planet look like if we took back the one power we consistently give away: choice. Because there is always a choice. Good, bad, indifferent, there is always a choice. Love, fear, growth, decay, life and death, there is always a choice. And the picture-perfect ending or eternal struggle is but a consequence of the direction we choose to travel from here.
So rather than looking at fear, right now, look at this as the moment of opportunity, because there's something so much better on the horizon, but we can only get there by eliminating the structure as it is now, because the structure as it is now is providing for our extinction.
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed, and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
I had to be willing to accept what other people had to say, do critical thinking to evaluate whether it's true or not. I had to learn. I had to learn how to change. I had to face my fear and confront my fear. I had to be honest with myself, which was difficult. I had to learn how to let go. And I had to learn to stand up for what I believe. And I had to learn that it all took hard work to get through all of that.
Yes, I'm talking about a nonviolent revolution of consciousness. A consciousness that is able to understand how we're all inextricably connected to each other on this earth and to the earth itself. And that if we violate those fundamental principles, we do so at our own peril. Yes, we can continue to live in this delusion and the denials of reality because it's painful. It's frightening. Sometimes it's terrifying. It's terrifying to face the truth.
That you're not spinning on a ball, man. Let go.
So I ask each of you to search your hearts as to what your truth is for being a citizen of the earth, promoting justice as a foundation for peace. It's not going to happen magically, and I think it's not going to happen by relying on these political structures and institutions. I think we're going to have to wage peace in the most extraordinary ways, whether our government wants it or not. You will know in your heart what to do, but I know that without a nonviolent revolution of consciousness, we will not survive as a civilization or as a planet. We can choose to have peace if we want to pay the price. And what more glorious goal and value do we want than peace for all people?
Peace and power.
And so I look forward to working together with you all, with we the people, to build a new society. A society that understands that we are not worth more and they are not worth less. And that we will be willing to pay the price and take the risks to wage peace with all fellow and sister human beings.
You know, the Rah the Great, man, gave us a great doc, man, to dig on, and a lot of things to research, man. You know, y'all go check out Still Looking, A Conscious Revolution. I'll leave the link below. You already know. And just remember, man, when it comes to you, and these Article 33, these 33 articles, all you can do is just justify your existence. Know that you've been written about, you've been written in, you've been neglected. Even when they put humane treatments in their provisions, they set up proxies so that they can justify treating you inhumanely. Though they find you here, the copper-colored races, the so-called Negroes, they still find other titles to give you, to treat you inhumanely. The American. And though they find this person here, they still invade and search out and capture and vanquish and subdue them with sorcery. Take their kingdoms and dukedoms and principalities, their energy, their dominion, their possessions. And I said, man, if I take your great granddaddy's wallet and then I just act like it's mine, and I pass it on to 5 generations in my family, and my great-great-great-grandchildren say, oh, that's my granddaddy's wallet. Does it make it true? Or is it the wallet that your great-great-great-granddaddy stole from someone else's great-great-granddaddy? And does that wallet still not belong to the great-great-granddaddy whose wallet was stolen? Even if it was passed on in another family? Even if your dominions, possessions, movable and immovable goods are passed on to successors of invaders of the copper color race found here. So you got the drop. We know who we are, we know we exist, and exist we do. Exist we are. Existence we have forever. Thank y'all for vibing, man. Go ahead and get this doc. Keep vibing on it and know who you are. Know you're standing in your land, the land promised to you. And all you have to do is say no to the confusion. Say no to the illusion. And remain hijack free. Stay up. Suit up. Choose up. Drop nation.